Right, ledgers. Can everybody hear me? And what chart can you see? Hello, Peter, Sposh, Gimbal, Riza, Jackie. Share the video if you can, and let me know if you can hear me. I can see Prime's website. Excellent. Okay, so let's start off with the disclaimers, obviously. I will take it from there. So welcome back again for Monday's Bitcoin for Ledgers live stream. Before we start, just want to thank our sponsor, Prime XBT, for making this happen. Check them out if you use the code in the description and if you use the link in the description and code TraderSZ, they'll get 25% off trading fees. So give them a follow, check them out as they sponsor the show. And as always, nothing discussed or featured today constitutes financial advice. As with all areas of investment, you should always seek the advice of an investment professional before parting with your capital. So we'll go over Bitcoin and Ethereum, maybe do one or two alts. Our guest today will be Melanie. She's a professional poker player. So we'll see what alpha she can share with us. I'm sure it's different, something different. No, I don't have a trading course. And there's a lot of these fake Twitter accounts and people being contacted on Telegram pretending to be me. It's not me. Okay? So don't fall for it. I don't want to hear it. Okay? I can't help it. There's like hundreds of them and they block me and then somehow still manage to comment. Anyways, what's been going on? I mean, Bitcoin's sort of been dead, hasn't it? Let's go to Bitcoin chart. Not much has been happening apart from the short-term setups. Nothing much interesting. Okay? So, we are still within this macro range here. Okay? Well, I say macro range. The smaller time frame range we've been using within here. Okay? We're going to simplify this chart down, and because we're within this range, there's an easier range to work with. Okay, and I'll try to do as quick as possible and get on to other stuff. And hang on, wrong chart. No. Why am I using this chart? Let me get the other chart out that I was showing you guys here. So just to save time, actually, so we can actually try cover somewhere else. What I've done is, yes, I'll give my thoughts on POI. Relax. I'm out of that for now. My long term from 3, I still got some, but wait till the fork happens in the token swap. I posted on Twitter anyway. Follow my Twitter. I don't know why people keep asking the same thing. I posted on Twitter. Go check my chart on Twitter. So what I'm doing now is, because we're still in that range, I've broken it down into a Monday's range. Last week's Monday's high, last week's Monday's low. So if we look at it, I mean, from a monthly perspective, I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, right now, I'm just playing it level to level. Monthly, okay, looks shit. And we've taken out... What are you guys think? What's you? What are you saying? Taking out that monthly low. Looking at the weekly. Okay. I mean, it could go either way. I mean, we still say we're getting cut by here. There's no reason why we can't really revisit these lows as well. This is still a range. We could possibly come here as well. So just keeping it open. No, you relax. Don't tell me to relax. So, is this going to be high, low? I don't know. I don't care. So, what I'm going to be approaching it on is a level-to-level basis. And that's the intraday rate, really, for me. So, all I've done here is mark out last week's Monday's high, last week's Monday's low. And we've been within that. Okay? So, if we go down to the lower time frame, clear setups. So, if it's going to break this low, probability-wise, probably going to come towards here. That low lines up with here, which is this as the extreme end of the low. Okay, so one scenario is it comes to the extreme end like I've shown before, then deviates back above, and I'll play it back up towards, I don't know, these lows possibly, target 1, target 2. So if it breaks that Monday's low, probability wise it's probably going to retest here. Okay, so 1 second. Keeping that in mind, go back to this chart. How do I go for the trigger for this? So the trigger for this would probably be clean break below. So I'm going to mark out a target before that. Just in case we get like a deviation back up above, I'm going to mark out a target before that. when you have it, watch my previous videos, it's all in there. You gotta find the video where it's in. I'm gonna take the low to the high. I'm gonna mark an objective. I'm actually gonna go for the smaller swing, be more conservative with the target. Take this swing low as this is the last swing up. Just marking at targets, okay? If it does break below, and I like the 161.8. So what we've got is 2 targets in mind. These are short term, obviously, but around here, okay, will be an objective. So the breakout downside scenario would be, because this is still support, clean break and hold below, no deviation. So breakdown, consolidate, breakdown. From that shows to me it wants to go lower, and from there target 1, target 2, and I'm done. Okay, does that make sense? As for the long side, okay, one scenario is if it deviates quick and then reclaims back above as a stop run, and then I'll go for the trigger here in validation. Where's my first target? That hasn't been retested. Take out that high. Target 1, target 2. Is that clear? All this stuff I've been over before. If you watch my previous videos, you know exactly what I'm on about. Scenario 2 is, what if they leave lows like this in? I mean, I don't like these lows, to be honest. Okay? But if it does, hello Crypto God John. If it does, what I would like to see is if it breaks. I don't really like this. These lows, they make it difficult for me to long. If it did take out that low, that's what I would like. But if it did, I mean, this technically would be a valid long scenario, where if you look at this, right, this is the low previously. Deviation, rip up. Support, pushed up. Deviation, pushed up. Deviation, pushed up a bit. Okay? So ideally, I want to see, I don't feel comfortable longing with these lows in place. I would really like that. So that's what I'm looking for. If I don't get it, it's fine. I think Ethereum's the cleaner play, which I will get onto in a minute. I've already posted about Ethereum, so it's kind of halfway towards the target already. Check my Twitter feed. Ethereum seems to be the better play for me. So that's what I'm looking for. I know it's not much to go with, but with Bitcoin being the way it is, I can't really do much about it. There is a breakout play I am eyeing as well, okay, which is same as last week. It's just the way Bitcoin behaving right now. I don't like it. Which would be, mark out my targets first and foremost. So say this rips up and I don't get my trigger, okay, this setup is always there. Based on FBTC, I think Bitcoin is the better play. I could be wrong, but whatever happens, okay, say we are about to break above last week's Monday's high, and that setup is always there for us. Break and hold above, then most likely we're going to take out these stops, target 1, target 2, which will be the main objective. If it's going to really squeeze towards here. Now keep that in mind, what I've just shown you guys. I'm going to quickly go back to this chart to compare the higher time frame SR levels with last week's Monday's range, which is around here. So remember that key higher time frame level. So if you were to clear that and hold, it's also a break above last week's Monday's high, break above that key SR level, and that's a breakout play. That's ready for me whenever the time comes. Target, maybe take some off there as well in case I was swing failure. Is that clear? And that's what I'm looking for. I'm not really actively trading this. Maybe small scalps here and there. Ethereum's the better one in my opinion. It's just cleaner for me right now. So that leads me on to Ethereum. Before that, let's do FBTC first. Looking at FBTC, my plan hasn't changed. I'm still swinging along this as I've discussed before, and my violation is below the blue box. So we're still holding above here, okay, this trend line. And I discussed previously the clean momentum would probably kick in on a clean hold, break and hold above the macro mid-range. So 2017 high, 2017 low, 2017 mid-range, okay. So if we, I'm already in this as a past 2 streams, okay, just can't do much about it. It is what it is. If I'm not already on board and I want the probability, well, I'll just wait for another break above this time around. If it was going to go lower, it shouldn't come below above here. See that previous high there? And also that high capping it, well, momentum should kick in then. And then towards here, and then that's what I'm looking to add on. Because the probability, thank you, James. Probability of my idea increases. Let's go towards the lower time frame, okay, just to see what it looks like. And, things are looking quite bullish for this, okay. I mean, there was a scenario, I think Bitcoin may leave these clean lows in, but I'm just not comfortable. Somebody was asking a question, sorry, just answering that. So it looks kind of decent to me. So if I wanted, lower time frame price action, so this is what I look for, okay. So if it was to do something like, I don't know, this. So that's, if it was going to go above, it shouldn't. And then that's momentum kicking in. Short term, I mean, I'm holding my swing position the way it is. I don't like to tighten too far, too quick, too soon. Because the swing play, you know, you gotta go with it. But for short term, maybe in violation. And at this point, I think the momentum kicks in. Because then that would be the consolidation right at the mid-range. Okay. So if I clean this up, so imagine something like this. Maybe makes it look cleaner. So we've got this and something like this. So this is this could be considered as the accumulation area, right? Break out of accumulation, clean break and hold, and then towards that, if that makes more sense. Okay, just like here, accumulation, break out of accumulation, then we get the momentum, don't we? And that would be the same. Oh, you fucking idiot! Who's this idiot? Get this fucker out of here. Fucking big time, shut the fuck up. Okay, so that's done. Is that clear? So based on this looking bullish to me, F seems to be the better play. So my swing position on F is still there, if you recall, here. So I've been in this, can't do much if we're in this. See that fucker coming in here. So basic TA, nothing complicated, okay? The fact that, you know, this blue box holding invalidation below the blue box, you know, trigger based on invalidation, and I'm expecting towards here, okay? Short term, ultimately we should take out these highs and then the 5136. After that, we'll see how high it goes. How do I place my targets if it does go a lot higher? Well, all you do is you take your fib high to swing low. I'm going to use this low here because that's a spike. And, well, we got this region already marked out. And after that, it's really going to go for it here and then there. Okay? You've asked me that once already and I said no. I don't have a trading course, no. Okay, so that's that done. Okay? There. So, shorter time frame stuff, what do we do? Again, let's simplify this down. So I'm going to draw this out. So where are we stuck within? So the 13th, let me just double check. The 13th was last week's Monday's range. Like the video, please. Let's get to 100 likes. Share it. The YouTube algo's going. So the 13th, which is here, Monday's high. So we are within this. So all this trading here is within here, Monday's range. Then let's get a Monday's mid-range out. Monday's low to Monday's high. What's this? 39.11.55. 39.11.55. 39.11.55. So I'm just marking out the mid-range. And both of them are actually stuck within the Monday's range, aren't they? Both Bitcoin and Ethereum. So, based on the higher time frame, I expect this higher, unless till proven otherwise. So, I did mark out a scenario last week, okay? Why does this look a bit different on this feed? I like the fact that it's looking a bit different. Yeah, here. It didn't go above. So, if you look on my feed, I've already posted this scenario. Let me just get it up. Where's it gone? Actually, no, fuck it. There's no point. So what I've got here is, if I go to the lower time frame, this is already triggered for me. I'm already in this short term. What we've got here is, see this top of this consolidation? So around this region here, we've got like a SR, don't we? See, here. Okay. So what we've got here is, we've got deviation. Come here. Once it gets back above, push towards the mid-range, right? Deviation. Not only that, it's taking out the stops here as well. We took our intraday stops there. We got this low here is taken out. That was my trigger. Pushing above. It's on my Twitter feed, okay? Down here. Listen, stick to the topic. Stop asking questions. If you want courses, I don't know. Try different people. There's loads. So towards here is my target. I mean, I'm going to go more conservative because it's just intra-week. While the swing plays are, this is a separate play towards here. Okay? This is still big resistance, by the way. Until it's cleared, this would be, I mean, if I was to look at it this way, this could easily be a retest of SR to go lower, couldn't it? So I don't care about that. All I want to do is target here and I'm done. Okay? Because I do know that if it is going to continue, I can get back in. How do I get back in? Well, let's use a simple concept. Well, where the stop's going to be resting from last week, it's going to be last week's Monday's high. Okay? So, if it comes into here, if it blasts through, okay, that's fine. If it comes into here, starts turning, I'd cut it. Because I know if it makes a clean break back above, and then holds, that's a break of a trend line, and reclaim of mid-range, Where's the stops going to be resting? Okay, let's go short term. Target here. Actually, no, before that even. What was capping the market previously? This level here, wasn't it? So it's going to be towards here. This high here, and then ultimately Monday's here. Okay? So I would go more conservative because this is a consolidation that hasn't, has it? I mean, maybe some exchanges, and the ones I'm looking at hasn't been tested. But regardless, hold above, invalidation, a clean break back below the blue box. I'd cut it, and I'd go towards there. Is that clear? I just see a clean break below. So there's no particular time frame. Everybody clear with that plan? How long have I been trading? 10 years. It'll be 10 years in February, I think. Or end of January. Yeah. Just under 10 years. Okay. Does that matter? I don't put any weight on a double bottom. It's just the structure I look for. There's no... The chart patterns is just one aspect of it. That's all it really is. It's not really that important. It's just if the market tells me where I'm wrong, I've got invalidation, I've got the high time reactions, and that's it. Okay? That's it. And that's about it for Ethereum. So the swing plays as a separate play. So the swing I mentioned is separate. These day trades I'm quick to cut. And let me give you an example. If you look at last week, right, I gave an example here. And I thought it was going to break out by the weekend. I don't trust the weekend that much, but you never know. So it was trading around here. I said retest there, take out the lows, push above here. And what was I looking for? Reclaim and hold above. It wicked back down, no good. If I'd held, that would have told me the market's ready to continue. But the wick tells me it's not. And that's why I cut it. I had to cut it early. But that would have been a trigger. Same setup, but market says to me it doesn't want to go. Okay, and it was a weekend as well. Don't expect much, but I still fucking degen on the weekend sometimes. And that's it. Everybody clear with that? Yes. And I've given the reasons why based on FBTC. Plus Ethereum right now is clean up here to me. Yes, I do use order flow, but I just don't talk. I'm not an expert at it, so I don't like to talk about it. But yeah, I use some of it, yeah. Do you close on the first blue box? Yeah, I mean, if it comes into the blue box, starts showing resistance, I'll just close it. Because why? Because I know how to get back in. If it makes a clean break and hold above, I'll get back in. So it's as if, okay, at least I don't have to worry about coming against me. It's a logical target. There's good reason for it to be resistance. I can always go back above. Give you some alpha, go if you want alpha, go research. You'll find all the alpha you need online. Okay, and that's that done. I go with PYR, and I was wrong on that idea, but you know what, all that hacking stuff sort of fuck shit up, didn't it? I can't remember the chart I had the long on, but let me just go over this. And I'll just personally wait till after the token swap and shit like that. Here, so I was wrong on this. But obviously the hacking didn't help. So there's two ways I'm playing this, okay? I'm going to wait. We've got one, this consolidation here. It's accumulation area. I don't know, however you want to draw it. Okay? So one is, I mean, obviously that's my level. So this is a big accumulation area here. So one is, okay, to confirm the low for me, I mean, if it was to, I don't know, come into here, start showing bullishness, then I'll long it. I will play level to level, okay? Towards there. Mate, I'm talking about this. Why are you asking silly questions after this topic? You know, I'm going to kick you out just for being stupid. I can't handle idiots here. So, sorry, man. If you're an idiot, please leave. I got no tolerance. Fucking hell, I'm talking about this and you're fucking asking me other questions. Bloody hell. Like some simple manners, man. Did your parents not teach you? Fuck's sakes. Sorry, man. Apologies to the polite people here. I just can't stand stupid fuckers. Towards there. Okay? And that's it. If it comes into here, starts finding resistance, get the fuck out. Always get out early. I may have a big target, but if market says otherwise, get the fuck out. I don't, you know, you're not going to be holding it. Always get the fuck out. The other way is, well, level to level again. So if it doesn't come into here, say it goes from here, because this was a key area here. And I personally wait for the token fork to happen and swap whatever, then step in. But what if this is a deviation? Okay? So if it comes back above here and holds, then I'd cut in a clean break below. And I'll play level to level here as well. Target 1, target 2. Okay? Well, if you look at every chart that's done good, all ends up like this. So, you know, if you look at all the charts, Solana, DOT, they all had fucking pullbacks like this. But it doesn't matter. Even if the chart is like that, they're going to have bounces, aren't they? They're going to have tradable opportunities, aren't they? And that's it. Look at all the charts. They're all fucking the same. Same thing again. Just play level to level. If you don't have the balls to hold, play it level to level. If you play level to level, you'd be okay. Regardless, get in, get out. The other level to level is break above, because we know we've got the levels marked out. Makes a clean break above here, just like here, and holds. Then that's your next level to level play. Shows resistance, get out. Okay? But don't be promoting that prick here. He's a nub. I have to delete this comment. Okay. The other one is, well, if it makes a clean break above here, so that way you're not stuck huddling it. You don't need to huddle it. Just play it level to level, and that's it. Make sense? And that's my thoughts on this. That is all. So you don't have to be a huddler. You can just play it level to level. Okay? HTI is alright. HTI, I had the chart on HTI. I posted HTI actually. Remember we spoke about it last stream. Do you guys remember? Was it last stream I spoke about? Let me find it. HTI. HTI. That's alright. That's not this one. Nope. Where's it gone? Nasdaq. Yeah, Alpha Nasdaq. What I'm looking for is, for those that are interested, if it comes in towards here, because see that here, there's a previous range for a deviation, right? That there, once it deviated, it dropped. Resistance here. If it does that, and then reclaims back above, that'd be my like level to level play. Target 1, target 2. That probably would help. I got a Lambo already. It doesn't matter if I've got a Lambo or no. I don't have a car. I go on a bus. Got a bus pass. Okay, so if we look at this, this is where I tweeted about this actually. This was it. I spoke about it here. So if you didn't want to long it here, you could have got it above here, and it's already hit target 1, and the next target's towards here. So I can't do much about it. If you missed it here, I did speak about this. If you go back, okay, yes. I mean, I'm mainly FX. Well, I come from FX background, really. Sort of showing you now that's how I trade FX. Maybe a few nuances. Every market has its little nuance, but the overall blueprint is more or less the same. So I can't really do much about here. I mean, I don't want to buy resistance unless you're some long-term hodler. But if you did do a pullback, say, towards here, okay, you know, that's not a bad long in area. Cut you on a clean break below. Play back towards here, level to level. Target 1, target 2. Now, extended targets, what would I look for? Just do it simple, isn't it? So we get this. Just take the high to the low. And this would be, see, previously the 127.2 capped the market, right? The next target is going to be the 1.6218, which is 2.9, and then 3.5. And then I don't know after that. We'll have to see. Who cares what's so fabulous about it? Not, all of these are fucking Ponzi's. Just trade it. Who cares? I don't know why people focus on what's so special, but just play the fucking chart. Some of the coins I play are fucking absolute shit. But I just play the chart, make money, get the fuck out. Every fucking these coins are Ponzi's, man. It's crypto, for God's sakes. Bitcoin's a Ponzi. Who cares? Just trade it. You're here to make money. You're not here to be some sort of cult. Oh, I'm a maxi this. Fuck off. Just make money and that's it. See ya, boot. Does that make sense? So I couldn't really give a shit what is what. I mean, I'm not loyal to any coin. I make my money and get the fuck out, and that's it. I mean, I don't even know what the fuck HTR does. But all I know is the chart looked good. I went for a long. And you know what? The Ponzi's ramp up the best. Put it that way, the Ponzi's probably scam pump the best. You know, look at all this shit like Floki and this, that, the other. Okay, now those are the biggest Ponzi's going. But look how much they rally. You know what I mean? Idiots go in Ponzi's. So, use them as extra liquidity. So if they're all going to pile in on these Ponzi's, get the fuck in. But just get out before everybody else. And that's it. Yeah, that's all I do, man. Just, what's the point, man? I mean, I'm not here to argue. I mean, I don't even like trust Bitcoin. You know what I mean? I mean, people say it's a long-term store of value. Bitch, you say you put 10 million into Bitcoin, right? And one day 30% candle, you're fucked. You ain't gonna get that in fiat. Okay, so I don't feel safe in here. I'm just gonna trade it though. It's a beautiful Ponzi to trade, and that's what I care about. Okay, let's move forward now. I spoke about Zava already. Okay, and I actually got in here. I posted when I got in as well. So I started scaling here, and I said I'm adding all the way down to 12. It did do that pump. Oopsie daisy. It did do the pump. Okay. And nice. Enough to take some profit. Once you start finding resistance, Remember this, when the market starts finding resistance and starts pulling back, I am going to take profit. I'm not going to just fucking hold it. Okay? And they came back down here. I added back in again here where I took off. My invalidation remains clean break below 10. And I think we get something like this. So see this here? This sort of structure similar. Down. As long as Bitcoin behaves, Bitcoin goes to shit, then obviously it's all gone to shit. But that's why you have an invalidation. And you have your risk. Okay? So similar thing here. Okay? It's got to take off now. If it breaks below 10, I'm out. Okay? I'm going to wait. I've got my set amount for staking. And just for the allocations I get for the presets they offer. I mean, even they make shitloads. But other than that, I'm going to wait. Okay? Every coin, don't marry no coin. Never marry a coin. Play the coin. When it's good, get the fuck out when it looks shit. And it's simple as that. I think I was posting a chart here earlier. I was comparing. No, fuck it. I can't find it. This one? No, I can't find it. I was comparing them both, but it doesn't really matter. Let me get the other AVAX. Since I've done this, I'll do AVAX, and then I'll do Luna as well. I got stopped out of Luna, but I got back in. So let me find my AVAX chart. Give me a second. Apologies, I'll find it. What the fuck's Kibble? I've never heard of it. Sounds like a scam coin. Is it a scam coin? Okay, so I told you guys I was already long from around 85 region. 85 to 80 was my average. Around 83 is my average actually. 82.5, something like that. I can't remember. And I said if you're not already on board, last week, if you remember, I said I was already on board. Okay, and I was already on board. And I said if you're not already on board, you want the stop run. Well, wait for the stop run, and then get back in. It didn't give the stop run. It just went my way. Perfect. Okay, it's going nice. Do. Hello, CG. Behave yourself. XMR. Could you get a short-term and long-term targets on Luna? Yes, I'll do Luna after this. I like Luna. I've got some spot in that. So it's pushing up. It's doing nice. So if this pushes up, usually Zava and this are correlated together. If this pushes up, Zava pushes up, and the AVAX coins again. But again, if what's it called? Bitcoin shits the bed. That God knows what's gonna happen. Again, whatever I post on the TA for these alts, right? If Bitcoin shits the bed, just now I'm gonna get the fuck out. Okay, or scale back anyway, my risk. So what's happening here? Right, let's go to the weekly. I still maintain my targets. Okay, I believe we're gonna retest at least 150 and push higher. So where are we at with it? So we are okay. Let's mark out the stops. So what's capping the downside? If we mark out this, okay, we've got this here. This is a weekly low, okay, and this is that level's capping it, and that we got here, and then after that we've got this here. Okay, so I'm just playing within the range. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to break that range further down. Okay, yes, I do trade with leverage as well. I mainly do leverage. A lot of these alts I'll probably just be spot, but I don't really do more than 1 or 2 pairs. Hard to manage and stay in profit. Take the high to the low, and look where we're at. We are more or less at the mid-range, aren't we? So as you can see, this is a key pivotal area. Okay, let's mark this out. It's a key pivotal area, right? So let's get rid of that. So what's going to be my first objective is going to be, let's mark out some objectives now. I like to mark out objectives before anything else. And where am I wrong? So if I'm not already on board this, okay, so one way was, okay, well, if Bitcoin shits the bed and we get a deep pullback situation, then just be prepared for it. I will be prepared for worst case scenarios. While everybody's panicking, we don't need to panic. Remember last stream, I said relax. While market was unfolding, we just relax. What I would do is we've got around this region here, okay, and we've got some stops resting here. So what I would do, worst case scenario, if Bitcoin shits the bed, okay, and this reclaims and then Bitcoin finds support, then I would long that back in again, okay, and then go back level to level, target 1, target 2, done. Okay, deviation, stop run, obviously stop run there as well, and then back up. One sec, what happened to my chart? Okay, that's that there. Now this was an opportunity here, because you know if this weekly level breaks, then you're wrong. So it came down and it's gone up already. Okay, if you missed it, that's fine. How do we get on board now? So what we do is This was the consolidation. So if I listen, let me make it simplified first. If I simplify it down, let's mark out a range. So what's capping the market? So the first thing I look at is what's capping the market. Let's refine this down, and I would argue that this level is capping the market. Okay, it's low there. So can you see the SR flips? So support, support, deviation, resistance, resistance, support, flipping. So if it makes a clean break above this and holds, then that's my trigger long, isn't it? Where's my objective? We got this high here, towards here, and then new highs. Does that make sense? So that would be the breakout play. My invalidation would be a clean break back below here. If it starts breaking down, then I'm going to start scaling out. Does that make sense? Fuck knows. I don't know about IOTA. Sorry. Does that make sense? I've already done a chart for Nia. Go on my feed. My plan remains the same. See if you get the pullback on that. That's nothing remains that I've already done Nia. And that will be it. So if I go back to the normal chart now, that's back above the mid-range I've mentioned. So maybe find some resistance here, you know. And then once you can hold above, that's my long short-term target here, obviously. If it starts turning, I'll cut it. And then I can use this as a flipping point. So if that happens again, and then reclaim back above, that's my long again, invalidation. Let's go. And then extended targets would be, well, just take the fib high. Hang on a minute. Just take the high to the low. So take that fib high to the low. And if it's really going to go for it, okay, then we got the 165, 190, 217. And that is it. Those are extended. If it comes into here, starts finding swing failure in this, I'm going to get the fuck out. I'll probably wait for something, some consolidation around here. And then if it does that, let's get back in. That would be showing me accumulation again. And then boom, target, target. So you don't need to worry about hodling. So this is the thing. If you plan on, if you know how to get back in, then you don't worry about hodling, do you? Does that make sense? So that's a question somebody asked. Well, what if I miss out? Well, if you miss out, you miss out. But if you plan how to get back in, then you don't really miss out, do you? You take your profit. If it gives you sign of taking profit, I love the trades. I plan out a lot of these trades, but I'm getting out early. Zava, especially. See this here? Okay, I wanted high. I still believe that. But if you think about it, right? Why this becomes more of a trader thing. I can take my profit. If it comes back down, I'm reloading, and I've locked in all that profit already. And before you know it, whatever amount you were going to invest in that trade idea, well, you made it back, haven't you? And it comes thing. And the scalps, I can't post a scalp. By the time I take my scalp and post it, it's out. I'm probably done by then. And not everybody can scalp. If you can't do the basic swing trades, what you can do is scalping. So no, I don't really show scalping. And I'm quick to get in and out. And it's so subjective and shit, you know. I change my mind in an instant. When I'm scalping, I'll change. I'll be long, boom, I'll change short straight away. And, so there's no point. Let's do Luna as promised, and then I'm going to bring Melanie on. So let's do Luna. So I did get stopped out in the initial idea, okay? So I thought invalidation here. I said clean break below 60 amount. I took a loss on that. And then I posted this when it was down here. And I said, if it deviates, boom, you got invalidation in, haven't you? This is the thing. Entry based on invalidation, okay? There. Trigger. You know where you're wrong. As soon as you know where you're wrong, you get the minimum for a trigger, haven't you? Right? Then you look at, okay, do I have minimum? Let's hit our first target. And next is going to be 96, in my opinion. And then we'll see what happens after that. So, entry, I don't look for a specific. Sometimes, if I get where I'm wrong, I don't need a specific entry criteria, like a candlestick formation. I know where I'm wrong. So, anyway, it's a good risk to reward trade, isn't it? Does that make sense? So, as soon as he did this, reclaimed and held, and that's it. That was enough for me. Long, wrong, target. And the secondary target is going to be to see if he makes it there or not. But I've already banked some. Stops break even. Let's see the rest. Does that make sense? Okay. Well, let's bring her on. So, does that make sense to everybody? Everybody clear with the plan? Okay, that's about it. Straightforward. Don't overthink it. There's no need. Hopefully there's no tech issues. Just confirm. Okay, while she jumps in. Was there any other coin? Why am I playing CRA? Well, the reason why I'm playing CRA is because it's an AVAX coin. And it's one of those gaming. I don't give a fuck what the hell it does. Half this shit, I don't know what the hell they do. But what I do know is I play the chart. If there's enough hype behind it, that's good enough for me. So yes, I posted when it broke out. That's what I'm going to cut it below here. First target. And if it's really going to go for a second. A lot of these coins don't make sense at all. Okay? Not to me anyway. I just play the hype. Fuck it. You're here to make money. You're not here to be all... hello? Hello, I think your mic's off. Mike. We can't hear you. Alright, no message.
How about now?
Yes. There we go.
Great.
Okay, so everybody, hello to Melanie. She's our guest today. Can everybody hear her? Let's just make sure everybody can hear.
Hi, guys.
Okay, so Melanie, you can describe yourself. All I know is you're a professional poker player. You know your risk and shit. And...
if I want to read the chat, I have to hear the echo of the previous one, right?
No. What you do is pause mute the YouTube. If you mute YouTube, and you can just hear me through here.
I can hear you through here now.
That's fine.
But how do I read the comments without it being on a delay with the echo? I can't.
No, there's going to be a delay here. I mean, do you have another computer or anything to look at it? The chat? Or...
Yeah, I could do it. I could just mute it, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, what we'll do is towards the end we can
Okay.
have a look, but you can get your stuff out and then everybody listen, don't ask questions till she's finished. Sorry. And then we get onto it. So, okay, let's take the stage. Go on.
Okay, I can see it. Great. Awesome.
Yep.
Okay,
Ready when you are.
Yeah.
Just give a brief introduction by yourself,
Okay.
and then we'll take it from there.
Sure. Okay. So I am a pro poker player. I have been so for about 14 years. And I found poker in high school when my younger brother was playing on Poker Stars. If any of you guys remember the golden age of online poker, and he won like $50,000 or so online. And I had the very classic brother-sister thing, like, well, if he could do it, I could definitely do it. And was really into it. I played tons in college. I had a lot of funny stories about how I had to figure out how to play because I had a Mac and the sites didn't run on a Mac, and I had to like run this whole like ruse so I could use my computer, my roommate's computer while she was gone. And it was a whole thing, very fun. I had, a game I played in my dorm and all that. And after about a year and a half of kind of learning through my own mistakes and just being very stubborn, it finally all clicked and I started doing very well online. I started winning a lot of things. And then I found the live tour. And I remember my first tournament that I played in Atlantic City, I heard all the people at my table speaking about their online screen names. And I was just like, oh my God, I know you guys. I've played with you guys. I've beaten you guys. And I told them, I was like, oh, I know you guys. And they were just like, who the hell are you? And I was like, oh, I'm so-and-so. And their just jaws hit the floor because there's so few women in poker who are playing, especially playing well. And so I realized there was a lot of opportunity because women were so underrepresented in the field to be a sponsored player and travel the world and be on tour. And this was in the day and age when Full Tilt and Poker Stars were like really big and on TV, and there was just like endless amounts of money for advertising. So I signed with Full Tilt and kind of started traveling the tour around the world. And Black Friday happened in 2011. And so online poker got shut down in the United States. And it was a very big blow to us who were professionals because it was virtually impossible to play. You really couldn't play on a VPN. You had to like truly relocate to do so. So a lot of poker players, and some of them who are now excellent traders, actually, there's a few of them such as Alex Weiss, who got their start playing poker, a lot of us had to relocate and set up shop elsewhere, which I did in Canada for a bit. And so since then, it's kind of like any other game. You know, the game has gotten harder over the years. Edges have been reduced. The poker market has gotten more efficient, so to speak. And which it's still a really amazing, really competitive, really fun game. But it's not just like the free money that it used to be. And I know some friends of mine who are traders kind of say the same thing about crypto, that like in the last cycle, it was basically free money. And now it's still good money, but people are learning and getting wiser, and algorithms are getting better, and the market is getting more efficient compared to last cycle. So there are some similarities there. And there's a huge crossover from poker to crypto, especially. And I think it's because, I mean, of course, it's because poker players are gamblers, but I also think it's because poker players understand how to tolerate volatility. They do it all the time. They take huge swings in their bankrolls, and if they're good, they don't go broke from them. And they have sort of a desensitization to risk. So the swings in crypto aren't as wild and crazy as they necessarily might be for your average trader. Exactly. And it's not, it's not just limited to stuff like crypto. There's just, there's the craziest prop bets you've ever heard in your life. Like, I think there was something a couple of years ago where there was $100,000 bet to have someone stay in a dark room for like a week or a month or something like that. I think it was a bathroom. And the guy took it, and it was on Twitter, and I think the guy bought out of the bet after a few days. I think that's what happened. So there's all sorts of crazy prop bets that are happening all the time. So we are all a bit degens, and I think that's why a lot of us also find crypto. I heard about crypto, I guess my first foray was in 2012, and I bought Bitcoin at $300. And then I sold immediately after, because it was too scary. But then I got back into it around 2016, and it's only this cycle that I've sort of become an observer in the trading world, and just like messed around a little bit myself, and kind of become more in the know for that.
Excellent.
That's kind of my story.
Interesting background.
Yeah, it's. I assume like trading is kind of the same. It's just very few people, like people love to do it, but very few people are actually successful at it. So it's kind of like in poker around, it depends on the game, but we roughly say that 95% of poker players lose money.
Similar to trading, really.
And it's, 100 million poker players or something in the US. And you can imagine, if you talk to your friend who's playing poker, they're probably not going to say, oh yeah, like I'm losing at this clip. They're going to say, I do great. Everyone says that, really. But the reality is just like trading, most of the field are losing, and you have to work very hard and maintain an edge once you get it, because the game is always advancing, and there are always people working just as hard, if not harder than you, trying to get and maintain that edge.
Okay. So this was one of the things we discussed, wasn't it? I mean, I was the type where I was saying you're either cut out for it or you're not, and you were like, no, you can be taught this, that, the other. I'm a bit brutal.
Yeah.
I'm a bit brutal.
So SC and I have a little bit different of a mentality about this. So I still play professionally. I still compete at an elite level. I play like the WSOP and the World Poker Tour and all that stuff. But around 5 to 7 years ago, somebody asked me if I would coach them, and I had never coached them before, and I thought that I thought, sure, I'll try to impart my knowledge, because while poker is zero sum, coaching somebody else in a game that they're playing that I'm not going to play is not necessarily reducing my own edge. So there's no real reason for me not to. And I discovered that I was really good at it because I come from an art background. I was a musical theater major in college, if you can believe that. But like the furthest thing from poker. And So poker was originally meant to be a vehicle for that. I was going to audition for shows and stuff like that, and I wasn't going to have to wait tables. I was going to be able to do this way cooler thing that was playing poker. But it was kind of like anything else you become really in love with and really obsessed with. Like I just ate, breathed, slept poker, and everything else just kind of fell to the side. Anyway, so yeah, I had my first foray into coaching like 5 to 7 years ago. And I discovered that because of an artistic background, I performed, it directed, stuff like that, I was able to sort of see what somebody, not only what they needed strategically and technically in their poker game, but also how they needed to be communicated to, how that information could reach them. Because there's a wealth of information, right? There's trading. I mean, there's training videos. There's same with trading, I assume. There's coaching, there's books, there's all this stuff. Yet the majority of the population is not incredible now just because of those resources. And it's because each individual has their own mindset and way of problem solving, and they need to be spoken to in that way, I think, to really do well. So I found that I was very good at this, and that became like a big part of my poker life, coaching students, and I really enjoyed it as well. Largely due to the zero-sum nature. I think in poker, when you're winning, someone else is losing. That's the nature of a zero-sum game. And that can often take a toll, I think. And it feels, and maybe you feel the same way, but I think it feels amazing to teach someone else and to see them sort of achieve those kind of aha moments that I did when I was first coming up in poker. So my students generally come to me with two problems. And one is strategic. How do I play better? And one is execution. When I know what to do, why am I not executing? Why am I not performing? And I think that is an issue that people find in all disciplines and all sports and all endeavors that require you to perform well under pressure. Yeah. And so SZ's thought is like, well, you win or die. Like you have what it takes, or you're just never gonna make it. And I kind of like to look at it from a more I try to look at it from a more nuanced psychological perspective. So I have a very sophisticated knowledge of cognitive biases. One, because I think they're incredibly fascinating, and two, because they apply to poker in a way that drastically increases your edge. I think being able to be aware of others' cognitive biases and others' psychological motivations, and then be aware of your own and how to manage it. And so if you're the kind of person that is it's super easy for you to distance yourself from money, then that's already a great start for something like trading or like poker. But I find that what separates the great players from the good players in poker is that the good players kind of take that distance and leave it. And the great players spend a lot of time paying attention to their own emotional responses and then craft very unique ways to combat them. So you can take the higher, the harder line approach, I guess, which would be just like either you're cut out for it or you're not. But I've had quite a few students who even one in particular, where I was just like, is it even ethical for me to take this person on because they're just kind of a basket case? And I found that it's kind of like anything else. If you truly, but this particular student of mine has now had multiple six-figure scores in tournaments, which are very hard to get, and crushes 5-10 and all this stuff. And it's kind of like anything else. Like sometimes you have the innate talent for it, right? But sometimes the hard work ends up eclipsing the natural talent. And I kind of feel like, I think about the way I approached work in college, for example, like academic work. And I always kind of relied on my natural intelligence to just skate by. And I'm sure like there are many people in the audience who feel the same way. So, I coasted and got B's when if I had put in the hard work, I probably could have gotten A pluses without too much of a problem. But I've always really respected the super high work ethic, And I've seen it over and over again be proven to me that it is just as good, if not better, than the talent. So if my students are willing to put in the work, then they're often going to have a really good result. And so the way I like to approach it, because oftentimes I'll have these discussions, the way poker players work, the way poker players work to study their own games, and the way I would work to study someone else's game, is by analyzing my hands. I would play a bunch of hands in poker, whether it's online or live. So if it's online, a lot of the statistical software you will run will save them for you, or the sites will save them for you, and then you will analyze them later. Like you might plug some equations into an equity calculator. You might use something called a solver, which is a game theory kind of computational interface to show like what the optimal strategy is. It's hard to explain to beginners, but you might do any number of things to evaluate your own play. You might send it to a group of friends you have and say like, well, what should I have done differently here? And that's the same way I would approach my students. So often when I teach, I have them, we discuss a hand and I say, well, why didn't you make this decision? Why didn't you pull the trigger here? Why didn't you think about this
trade
factor?
journaling.
And yeah, exactly. It's very similar to trade journaling. What makes, if you're losing in trading, you're probably not keeping a good journal. You're probably not keeping accurate records of what you're doing, and more importantly, you're not reviewing them. You don't have a system. You don't it's like an athlete would never just go out their door and do a 100-meter dash. They would warm up, they would take care of themselves physically and mentally, and then they would do that. And just because, poker or trading only requires you to get up and press a button on your computer and sit there, doesn't mean that you shouldn't also have a kind of warm-up routine for that, both physically and mentally. But people are incredibly lazy, so
I want to
how
focus
it goes.
on one bit. So remember the point where I said you can either cut out for it or not. So what is it that you specifically?
Oh yeah, no. Sorry. Yeah.
No, that's okay. I know that's my fault for going astray.
No, I was just getting back to that. So it comes to an execution error. So they know analytically what they're supposed to do. They've been told by me. They've had it proven to them mathematically. They know exactly what they're supposed to be doing, but for some reason, in the moment, they can't execute.
That's my problem.
So I like to kind of break it down. So
sorry for interrupting. Yeah. That's what I say cut out for it at that moment. No. Yeah.
So if you're SZ's student, he's going to be like, you're not cut out for it. And if you're me, I'm going to be like, if you're my student, I'm going to be like, well, let's take a look at what's really going on here, what's happening. Because what happens is when people make mistakes, when they have a kind of mental trauma, like let's say you take a trade you're not supposed to, but you have FOMO, whatever like the classic reasons are for doing that, and then then you lose money. You tend to distance yourself from that decision point, just like any other painful kind of mental stimulus or trauma, and that is the wrong way to solve the problem. The right way to solve the problem is to take a very detailed look at what is going on. So firstly, you have to identify, and that might not be comfortable for people, but like too fucking bad. That's if you want to get better, that's what you have to do. So you have to take a really detailed look. So I have people kind of relive the moment where they make mistakes and identify how they were feeling, what the chain of thought actually looks like. So like, for example, one of the biggest mistakes I used to make early on in my career is I was paranoid that everyone was bluffing me all the time, because the traditional way of evaluating women in poker is that they're all very conservative, and that's a completely different conversation. I think women do tend to be more conservative, because women are, for social and biological reasons, women are just less risk tolerant than men, which makes sense. Like, why would our biology have caught up so quickly just because we're more technologically advanced right now? And there's lots of stuff like that. If you think about human behavior that just hasn't caught up with where we are technologically. But so I was pretty paranoid that that's how I was being seen constantly, and that people were trying to take advantage of me because of that. So I was always looking for reasons to make these hero calls and call people's bluffs. And so the framework of thought would be something like, I would consider all the normal pieces of data that you'd want to consider when making any kind of decision to optimize your decision. Well, does this person have any reason to be bluffing me? And the answer would be like, no. Does this person, given the factors of the hand and given the way it's gone, and in poker, the way we evaluate a hand is by range. So nobody plays, it's not just, oh, he has this one single hand. You might have a set of hands that you might play the same way. So when I'm evaluating your hands, I might say, well, you could have this, you could have this, you could have this. And so then my thing would be, is his range strong? Does he have any reason to have a lot of weak hands in this situation? The answer would be like, no. And so I would go down this thought process, and then and I would evaluate it normally. But because the lens through which I was looking was, I want to win this hand and I don't want to be bluffed, that colors all of those decisions. So I would end up, after all of that, I would end up being like, but what if he has the one hand he could potentially have in this one situation I could be? And I would have this out-of-body experience, like watching myself put chips into the pot when I knew I was making a wrong decision. So I knew what was going on. How do I stop that? So firstly, I had to be able to recognize the mistake the next time it happened. Because what happens with people is like everyone has the hindsight of 2020, like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. But how do you make yourself recognize the mistake? Like maybe it's not even a way to fix the mistake, right? Maybe it's just your first step is identifying it. How do I identify it? So I just paid attention. I revisited the last time it had happened. It was like in some major tournament. I was just feeling really shitty afterward, and I was like, all right, I gotta stop this. And I revisited, and I was like, all right, here's how it felt. Here was the physical feeling. Here was the mental pathway I was on. Pay attention and see if you can just know when it's happening again. So I was able to, I paid so much attention. I was like, oh, I had a little alarm bell the next time it was happening, but I didn't yet have a way to reverse course. I just knew that I was off course. So I had to now do this psychological tactic called coupling, where you take the thing that you're doing poorly and you connect it to something that's going to take it away. So you have this mental link, this association.
Yeah.
And so I would couple that with just getting the cards away from me, because if I didn't have the cards, I couldn't make a call. So I would fold those spots. And then once I felt comfortable that I could identify the execution problem, the performance problem, then what I do with my students, but what I did with myself as well, was mess around with strategies. Like it doesn't really matter what the strategy is. Like your strategy that works for you actually might be really embarrassing or something like that you wouldn't want to admit to other professionals. But if it works for you, fuck it, it works for you. So I would test out things to see if I could reverse course and get back to the original point, the starting point of the hand, and be able to think through it well. And so I would test out like, well, what if I think about this? Or what if I like set aside this part? What if I focus on this part? What if I just like start at the beginning and replay the hand all the way from the beginning in my head, even if it takes more time? So I would experiment with these different tactics. And if I found something that was helpful, I would keep it. And if it didn't really do anything, I wouldn't keep it. And that started to apply to every facet of my game. And so that's what I like to do with my students' games if they have these same problems. And so for your traders who you would cut, I would say, let's pay attention to what's happening here. What does the moment feel like when you're making a bad trade? So like another student of mine said that he starts with the right decision. So every time there's an opportunity, he starts correctly. I should do this. I should do this. But then he talks himself out of it for one reason or another. That's the execution problem. So if you can identify that, and he wouldn't have known that if we hadn't spent a lot of time breaking down the actual moment of error, we wouldn't have found that. Yeah. So once we found it, I was like, okay, is this how it always goes? Do you always instinctively know the right decision? Exactly. Yeah. Do you always instinctively know the right decision and then talk yourself out of it? Because if it's always in that order every fucking time, then there's an easy fix, right? You just only go with the first thing you think and you ignore all the noise afterward. So stuff like that, just breaking down the moment of error and figuring out what is wrong, and then experimenting with different tactics. And it sounds so simple and logical, right? Like it sounds like a no-brainer thing to do, but nobody does it because nobody pays attention, and no one actually takes the time to say, okay, I'm going to try this strategy today, and I'm going to be very open-minded about how I evaluate it. and then I'm going to, give it a score of how effective I think it was. And then I'm going to keep it or whatever and try something else next time. And then how do you even come up with these tactics? Because you can think, the way I like to think about it is, let's say you're trying to eat healthier, but you go to the grocery store and you buy a bunch of junk food because you think like, well, I'll just have this, at home, maybe for guests or maybe like once in a while, and I won't eat it. And that person in the grocery store that's talking about what an incredible decision maker they are is not the same person that is going to be weak at home and potentially make a bad decision. So you're creating a situation where your weak self is not protected by your strong self. So I like to think about how you feel when you're making these bad decisions, or how you feel when you're emotional, and what you might respond to when you're in those situations. Like what you could possibly give yourself to take you out of it. Because when you're in the situation, there's no way you could possibly have the agency to think of those things, So I like to craft those strategies outside and just think like, well, what if I could have anything in the world, how would I be able to get out of it? And so like one thing for me is like, so in poker, there is this thing called tilt, and I imagine it happens in trading too. It's just emotional based decision making. And so SC is a killer, as everybody in the chat knows. So SC doesn't have any emotions when trading ever. But for the rest of people, I think it is a.
So this is what we discussed before, like the emotions part. Except the worst case. What's the worst that can happen? The worst that can happen is whatever you've risked, you're gonna lose that. Now the problem emotion comes in is when you're over risking, right? Or you don't have proof of evidence that this strategy plays out profitable over time. Not on one or two trades. The conviction comes from practice and forward testing. And then the emotionless comes from, well, if you're risking a set amount that you're okay with, what's the worst that can happen? The only time you're emotional is if you haven't got that statistics behind you and you're risking too much. Why is there need to be emotion outside of that? Which I don't understand. But this is where I find people are cut out for it or not.
So I would ask you, do you enjoy losing?
It makes no difference to me because I know long run it works. But that confidence comes from doing it for so many years, and in the long run it works out. And if there is a problem, I'm quick to fix it. So if you act on it, not doing the same thing again, but you gotta fix it. It can be as simple as that, in my opinion. But can you put that work in? Like, identify the problem. I'm on a losing streak here. What's different? Is my strategy wrong? Or has the market conditions tweaked a bit where I have to adapt to it? So if you adapt to it and then fix it, then why does there need to be a problem? I don't understand why there needs to be a problem.
Okay, so if it is that simple, how can so few people execute?
Because the people are lazy. It comes back down to the simplest of stuff. How many people in this chat right now journal, first and foremost? Or I still journal. How many people journal? How many actually put like a lot of people ask me, what's your trigger plan? I've gone over my trigger plan nearly every video, right? But the fact that they'll ask me, but even though I've been through, I go watch my video. They won't take the time out to go do that work. That simple thing that you're resisting, that if you really want to do something, you'll go out your way to do it. Like in school, right? You get the one teacher and the same, notes and everything's given out to everybody, but not everybody will get A's. Some fail, some get A's, but those that get A's go beyond because they want it. So they'll take that and then go beyond. I find people that really want it will go beyond what's expected, and those are the people that make it.
Okay, so would you say you're a competitive person?
Yeah, I mean, so you gotta have a drive, right? But really, I mean, I don't see competitive in. Yeah, I like a bit of competition, but no as well at the same time, because I'm here for myself, right? So I'm in competition with reaching my goals, and I'll do whatever it takes to get there. Whereas if you're comparing yourself to others, that can hinder you. Oh, he's got there before me, and why you need that extra stress? You're just you and the market. Focus on yourself, focus on your development, because the moment you start bringing other people's development into your mindset, boom, hang on a minute, why am I not doing this? And you start taking shortcuts.
But what you've done, if that is the true mindset that you actually, like, you've reached nirvana. Like that's nirvana. To never be concerned with like our entire society is comparative, right? Wealth, image, status, beauty. It's all comparative, and we live in that way. And like the way we observe others is always in a comparative light. And especially for people that are super competitive, like myself, like for example, when I play like a board game with my friends, you know, just something very low key, I am fucking pissed if I lose. Like I take it incredibly serious. I'm not just like, everyone's like, oh, I'm just here to have a good time. I'm like, I'm not. I'm here to destroy you. And I think that like that competitive element brings a lot of people into these edge games, you know, trading and poker and stuff like that. And
no, carry on. Let me finish, then I'll say why I don't let myself get to that.
Okay. And I think like no matter how much, and I've had these conversations with other poker players many times, like no matter how much I've worked on my game, no matter how prepared I felt, no matter how well I've executed, like, yes, it feels good to leave the table thinking like I played perfectly, you know, I didn't make a mistake, and that's just like how it went. But losing still sucks. I do not like the feel of losing, and there is an emotional fallout, like especially if you know, go really deep into a tournament, which happened to me a few times this summer, and then like you just fall short. Sure, it's a load of variance, and like, yeah, like maybe you were in a situation where there's nothing you can do, but it just like, it feels so awful to lose. Like you want to win, you want that thing. And so for me, when I hear you talk about that thing, I'm like, okay, so the worst that could happen is that you lose the pot. But what about the emotional fallout?
Okay, so
of the loss? Like, what about the way you're going to feel?
Yeah, but if you think about
anyway,
it,
you can go back to what you were saying, we can talk about that.
So losing something I've accepted. Nobody's 100%. I take many losses. It's going to happen. Now, if I carry that to the next trade, that's already affected my next trade already. What's the point? What's going to happen is I'm going to make bad decisions. I'm carrying emotional baggage for no reason. Whereas, okay, I've accepted that in the long run. Many losses. But long run, look at the bigger picture, it works. So if I've taken that stress from the previous trade to the next trade, well, I'm already at a disadvantage already. What's the point? It's done. Nothing can be done. Now, the only time I get pissed off is if I've done a stupid error, which was within my control. That's my mistake. But if I take a loss because I followed my plan and I was just wrong, you know, because if you followed X, Y, Z and you get 100% strike rate, well, that's not realistic. But if I've followed my plan, that same plan in the long run works. But if I've done something outside of the plan, that's when I've got to join. Okay, I shouldn't have done that. That's on me. But if I take a loss, okay, I was just wrong. That's fine. So what's the point of taking it forward?
So do you have the exact same experience and the exact same emotional response whether you have a winning day or a losing day?
Yes, if you've been doing it for years, you shouldn't, because if you're an emotional person, wins or losses, then this is not. I don't believe personally trading is a game for really emotion. Yes, you can get happy. That's fine. We're human. We do have that emotion, but quickly get back in check then, because then that's dangerous. Then because then you'll get overconfident, and when you get overconfident, then you make the mistakes. Treat the next trade okay. Have your little happiness, little moment. Boom, forget it. Next. And if you approach it like that from each trade from scratch, then you're less likely to make mistakes. Because my journaling showed me that if I get too emotional with trades, that's when I fuck up. If I get too happy, I get too cocky, too confident. So that's picked up from journaling. Whereas, okay, it's done, it's finished. Now is the next challenge. And start from scratch again. You're more likely, to make less mistakes. That's for me personally. So happy emotions or bad emotions, I've got to cut them out before I move on to the next one. Yep.
So you have worked on actually lowering your happy emotions from a successful
But you have to
trade.
though, because even the happy emotion has its negative side effects.
Amazing.
Overconfidence, cockiness, and I get lazy in the markets. Then the effort I put in that one trade before, when I won't put that effort in, I made a win, it's okay, I'll be lazy, boom, there's that mistake I could have stopped because of overconfidence. So that's why I've got to fix back, because it's taught me that I'm gonna pay the price. It's okay if I'm wrong, if I follow my plan, but if I've taken a loss because I made a stupid error that was in my control, that's when the issue is. And if you do that over a number of times, I've been doing it for 10 years, remember, so it's not as if I'm new. It's taught me, okay, this is the best way, so why change it? You got to be like a robot.
Well, I'm learning something really interesting right here, because I don't necessarily, like, I try to emotionally take care of myself after like a big loss. Like Poker is a little bit different because, especially in tournaments, because you kind of like advance to the next stage. It's like, maybe there's thousands of people and you're one of the last 10 or 20 or whatever. So it's a lot different than just like a regular single hand or a single cash game or whatever. So I definitely feel like I have kind of an emotional hangover after I have like a super deep run.
Joke.
But
I had to drop that in. Sorry, it's a joke.
What'd you say?
Nothing.
What'd you
Joke.
say?
I mean, Twitter was egging me on. I said, you're a woman.
What did he
I
say?
said, you're a woman. Joke. That was a joke. You can handle it. That's why I said it.
Well, I mean, they're women and men actually do process emotions somewhat differently. And of course, I'm speaking in general terms. Like, I said the thing about risk tolerance. Women being less risk tolerant on average than men, coming from our hunter gatherer days. But clearly, I'm an outlier. I'm an outlier to that. I'm a professional gambler.
You've just got rid of that.
So
You've just
I don't
burnt those
necessarily...
emotions out. You focus on the process.
But I understand. I understand how the differences kind of manifest. The same way, it's my job to understand how to approach different types of men at the poker table. Like, is this person going to observe me this way and feel this way about me, and therefore play or deviate in his game differently against me? How's this person going to view me, et cetera, stuff like that. But when I have a great session or a big win, like, I definitely celebrate it and feel, I indulge in that emotion after, and I've never once thought that maybe that could be bad.
I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but if you can do it, that's fine. But then don't carry it on to the next thing.
It's interesting. It could be making me weaker. Indulging in the happy thing now creates a comparison
give a little
for me
analogy, right?
when I lose.
You see,
and how I feel. That's really
interesting.
If you
look at like the cycle in the world, right? When people are rock bottomed out and having difficulty, that's when they work hard. But when people are rich and they've got everything, that's when they become lazy. I know it's a different analogy, but if you've got everything you need, you don't put that effort in compared to somebody that's hungry for it. So the hunger grows. How many people were hungry at the bottom, and then when they made it, they got lazy, and that's when the mistakes. And that's how the world operates, isn't it? It goes around in circles. Like the empires, when they got too rich, too arrogant, then they started to fall. If you study history, it goes around in circles. Similar thing to this. When I get too cocky, too overconfident, that's when my mistakes come in. But, okay, have your moment. But if you're able to not carry that on, maybe that makes a difference. For me, it did. I mean, others are different. I mean, maybe I need that. Others may not need that. So, yeah, that worked for me.
Yeah. Because all my study is about how to be completely super ultra hyper self-aware of my emotions in the moment, and know how to manage them, know the effect that they're having on others, know how to respond to that, like, level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But you're totally right, and it reminds me of this concept in psychology that I love. It's called the Hedonic Treadmill. Have you heard of that?
No.
So it refers to how, like, you would think, like, let's say if you're at the bottom, let's say you're taking some swing play at the bottom, and you think like, wow, if this goes up 100x, I'm just going to be elated. I'm going to be the happiest person in the world. And then once that happens, they now adjust to the mean, and they feel like, oh, well, that was, pretty cool, but maybe like another 10x from here, that kind of thing, like something outrageous like that. And it talks about how humans don't really have these sustained high or low emotions for very long, that you always kind of regress to the mean. And it's why paraplegics and lottery winners both report around the same levels of happiness around 6 months after the event, which is pretty amazing. The same levels of satisfaction after something horrendous and something super happy happening. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense why people would have the sharper decision or at least the weaker decision making later. Why people never take profit. Why people aren't able to accurately assess what's going on except in hindsight.
Yeah. For example, profit taking, right? I mean, when it's coming up, we always have a plan. This is where I'm going to take the profit. when it comes to our level, do we really take the profit? So there's two ways of overcoming. One, you take your profit, or two, if you think it's going to go further, have a plan how to get back in. So that overcomes that FOMO, doesn't it? So find a strategy to overcome that FOMO. But people don't. People just, when it comes to the level, when it goes to the target, okay, what do I do now? And you had a perfectly planned out, mapped out plan, but you fuck it up there. The trade management, everybody can get nice entries, but it's the trade management that messes it up. Like, you know, many people here would have had portfolio all-time highs in the bull run. But the fact that, you know, all that emotion and hype and everybody, you know, 100x this, but hang on a minute, it's going to come down. Have you planned your exit? It's when things are good, that's when you should plan. And plan for how to get back in, so you remove that FOMO. But that's what people don't do, because emotion is so powerful. And that's where discipline comes in. And humans are emotional creatures. This is why majority of the world are just sheep. That's just fact. You have to accept that. Not everybody's going to make it big in trading. So you can't enforce that. You can do it. We're all going to make it. No, we're not all going to make it.
We're not.
Because if anybody's a millionaire, nobody's rich. And this is how life works. So you got to be cut differently, I believe, in that sense. And you can become that. Sometimes I say to people, you're not going to make it. Maybe that ego thing makes him do it. You know, but I'm realistic. I know 90% aren't going to do it. Unless they willingly choose to change. But that's just me. I'm just more harsh. After you're a more softer approach.
I also have, like, actually this might be a good question for you, because I feel like unless you just nail the top or the bottom, there's always this like, well, I should have this, I should have that. And I was talking about this with one of my friends, and he was just like, you mean you should have been able to see the future?
I mean, nobody really is able to do that often. Very few can. Be okay with that. Be okay with the grey. I often don't. I sometimes get lucky, but I'm okay. I've accepted that. I'm not going to nail the top bottom. I'd rather live in the middle where I get my chunk and that's it. And be content with that. Why people are aiming for perfection? Trading isn't perfect. Why add that extra stress of perfection? You don't need that perfection. Be okay with, okay, I got something that works for me and me only. I don't need to show off. A majority of it is just showing off on Twitter or to ego boost. Have a plan. This is what makes me money. And this is after a top is formed, after a bottom is formed, if it makes it easier. But aiming for that, yeah. But really rarely do people time the exact bottom and low, unless you're moving the market yourself. But yeah.
But you have this feeling, at least like whenever, like sometimes I just like let myself look at a chart and kind of like gut react and think like, well, what's my fishy tendency here? What's like my amateurish way of thinking about this? And the first thing, like the first time I actually like opened a trading chart, I was like, oh, well, like, you know, it's here. How could it's so obvious that this was the top. It's so obvious that this was the bottom. And you kind of like chastise your past self for somehow being too stupid to know that was the case, rather than thinking in terms of probabilities, and that this is just like how it happened to manifest. And maybe it was a high probability situation, but there's no reason it couldn't have, you know, gone lower and then go up, or gone higher and then go whatever. But when you see it, you know,
but yeah, I mean,
in such a,
I just wouldn't let that get to me. I go, that's not my trade setup. There's others out there that will nail it. That's theirs. So if you're not able to master the top and bottom, I'm not that good. But all I do is I focus. I think people should focus on what they're good at, instead of trying to be something they're not. Nobody's gonna nail the bottom. Okay, there's certain times maybe when the probability is in my favor, but most of the time I'm not. I'm in the middle of a leg. But that's just my niche. So I'm not going to stress myself out on something that I'm not good at. I've accepted I'm not good at this. So accept that. Accept your reality and move on. And that's my approach.
Well, I think it's the same for any discipline, right?
Yeah.
There is lots of proven strategic material. Like there are things that you can't deny work well. But if you're always trying to formulate your own approach by leaning on other people's thoughts and design, then you're never going to have your own edge. Like you might be good, but you're never going to be the best by just like copying other people all the time. But I think the reason people want to do that is because they want fast results.
No, it's
they just
easy.
want like
it's also
a quick
easy.
cheat sheet.
Yeah. It also doesn't require them to think.
They want a formula.
Yeah, people don't want to think.
Yeah, they want a formula. And like a lot of the time I have to tell people, like, I'm not going to teach you a formula where you just like, oh, here you do this, here you do this. Like some situations come up, you know, frequently and you want to know what to do there. But the key is to have a decision-making process so that you feel confident in, that you can then use no matter what the situation is. So I'm confident in the way I evaluate decisions. So it doesn't matter if I think about all the trillions of ways a poker hand could be dealt, or all the, the millions of people you could see. You're never going to have played with that exact person before. And same with trading. You're never going to be in this exact same situation with the exact price and the exact macro conditions and whatever. But if you trust your decision process, then you trust your ability to evaluate the new information. If you're relying on a fucking cheat sheet, then you're just going to be lost.
My approach is more, you teach someone a blueprint and then they make it work for themselves. They create their niche. I don't think there's a black and white way of doing it. If you X, Y, Z, you're going to get it right. No, you got to teach a blueprint and then you evolve into your own niche. But people don't want that. People want the exact blueprint, and it's easy that way. And this is where I believe those that will take the basics, take what works for them and create their own niche, and then they will know themselves because they've got the skill set for life then. Because they can evolve with the market, they can adapt. They're thinkers. You need to be a thinker. You need to think, independent thinker. But a lot are easy. That's why people like basic chart patterns, because it's easy to draw. They don't want to think. It's just easy, and it takes that responsibility away.
But everyone can draw. Everyone can draw a chart line. You being able to draw a trend line is not. I think Light said it on Twitter. Like, you being able to draw a trend line is not alpha. No, it's not. But it's so
knowing when to use that trend line and when not to. But that's where the thinkers come in, because they think about it and the probabilities and everything.
Something that's super important though, that I want to stress to your audience, just so they know that it goes across disciplines, is that your job is to survive, because money is money is your tool that you are doing something with. So if you lose your tools, there's nothing you can do. Your job is not to necessarily maximize the absolute biggest amount of profit you can in this like one potential trade, because if things go wrong, then you're out of the game. And in poker, we call this bankroll management, and you have to, your idea is to structure it based on risk of ruin. Like, there might be, let's say my bankroll is $10,000 and there's a game that I have to sit in for $10,000 if I want to play, and the biggest fish in the world is sitting in this game. I know he just gives away money. He likes to gamble. He goes all in pre-flop with any two cards, blind. We call it blind. I can't sit in that game because of the volatility. Yes, it's an incredible situation, but it's like the biggest shot I could take. If something doesn't go my way, and in poker and in trading, lots of things won't go your way. It's all estimates. There's tons of volatility. There's a million things that could shift the needle. I'm out of the game. So I can't, it might be the best game I could ever play, but I just can't play that game. And because I won't be able to play any more games if I lose. So when managing your risk, you might see what you think is an incredible opportunity, but you need to understand that if it doesn't pan out the way you think, and we're humans, we're fallible, and these things are not an exact science. They're all probabilistic thinking and estimates of return and all this stuff. You have to consider that you can't just be taken out of the game because you have a bad trade or a series of bad trades even. And so in poker, for example, I would never put more than 1, potentially 2, if I was feeling like it was a really good opportunity, percent of my bankroll in any one given tournament. Yeah. Because you can go on streaks where you lose, 10, 20 in a row. So I would never do that. And if I'm playing like a less volatile version of poker, then I might have, I might put, 5%.
This is like trading.
Of what I have on the table.
With trading, I mean, this is what I don't use the same risk. Each environment, like the same setup, I use smaller on one, bigger on the other. So for me, for example, it's like if I'm in sync with the trend and I get a setup, I'll put more risk on because the tide's in my favor. That same setup, counter trend trading, even though it's a valid setup, I'll use smaller risk. And then I gotta identify, okay, is it in my, are all the probabilities in my favor? The fact I'm counter trend trading, the probability of that setup isn't, because firstly, I've got a same setup, I've got to cut the short trade earlier because I'm countering it. Secondly, I'm going to use smaller risk, or I completely ignore it. So this is where, it's not just what does the setup look like, it's the context as well. Whereas in a range bound environment, I treat it equally because I know the probability is equal both sides. So there's a lot of factors like increasing. So for example, I have like a 1 to 5 scale, 3, 4, 5 being the highest, and then one's lowest. When it's in sync with my trend and I get like a score of like 3, 4, maybe 5, I put my risk up. When it's in my favor, I put my foot on the gas, and then I take it off when it's against my favor. Even though it's a valid setup, I'll take smaller risk. And I think that's how the equity curve develops. Instead of doing the same risk, if everything's in your favor, why not maximize it? Because they weather the bad days.
Because they can't wait. They
Exactly.
can't wait for the setup. Like, and we talked about this before. Professional poker players are playing. I mean, it depends on the situation, position, and if there are poker players in the audience, and they'll know it's not this cut and dried. But 20% of their hands on average, and maybe you want to play every hand, and it's boring to fold. And sometimes because of the sequencing and the distribution, you have to just sit for an hour and fold because you don't get one of those top 20% hands play. And so people don't want to just sit out of the action. They want to be in the action. And I think that potentially forces people to take suboptimal situations or put on more risk because they've been bored or feel like, well, I'm starting small. Like I only have, let's say, I don't know, someone wants to give trading a punt, and they're like, well, let's start with $500 and we'll see how it goes. Well, they don't want to risk only $5 on a trade. That's so lame. Like, okay, so what? They're going to make like a couple of dollars in return, but that's how you actually can sustain and grow your bankroll. And I would say the same thing. Like there's so many stories in poker of people going broke, like incredibly talented players. Just either they've gone broke or they keep going broke. And then they get into situations where they like need backing. They need someone to pay for them to be in tournament, and they have to split their winnings. So their expectation gets cut in half, or they're just out of the game, because they priced themselves out of the game, and you'll just never know if they could have been great or not, because they never gave themselves the opportunity to stay in. And I think that's so incredibly important. And I'm saying this as a poker player who went broke so many times when I first started out, and which was actually like, I was just like 20 years old, being like, whatever, money, like I could make this back if I need to. So I was very resourceful at the time, and so like if I played a game I shouldn't have played, or made a decision, or went on some bender playing some opponent who got under my skin, who I couldn't just like leave, for example. Like quitting is just such an incredible skill in poker, and I imagine knowing when to not take a trade is kind of the same way, because you have to win better than your opponents, but you also have to lose better than your opponents.
Let me ask you a question.
Because you're going to be taking lots of losses.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question. Why do you think people don't follow their plans? What's one of the main reasons from your experience? Obviously,
I was going to ask you the same thing. I think that for what I see a lot is that people don't follow their plans because they get affected by a piece of information that starts to take priority in a thought process. So in poker, we have levels of thinking. So level 1 is, what do I have? Level 2 is, what do I think you have? Level 3 is, what do I think you think I have? And so on and so forth. And so normally, most poker players, most of the field who are losing, they're playing level 1. So they're looking at their cards and they're seeing if they've connected with the board, and that's it. So if you play level 2, you're going to beat them if you're just focused on what they have and how to play that. But what happens is, in the moment, because like often some of my students are quite sophisticated, so they're very aware of their image and what they remember, what's been going on at the table and everything. So let's say they made a call in a situation. They made a hero call, and they won a pot, and everyone's like, wow, like amazing call, et cetera, et cetera. So now on another hand, with somebody that's doing something that's very obvious is a bluff and you should call, they start now latching on to this level 3 piece of thinking like, well, he saw me make this hero call, like he knows I'm capable of making those calls, and he's still making this bet. Maybe he's not bluffing. So they start getting on a level that their opponent's not even thinking about. They start paying attention to they're not sticking to the framework that they know they should be evaluating the hand with, and they or like, oh, it's this point in the tournament, or oh, maybe your opponent is thinking about nothing. Like most of the time, your opponent is thinking about what they have in their hand, and maybe like what's for dinner. And that's around it. But they start giving their opponents too much credit. So you hear they start paying attention to these extra meta psychological factors rather than zeroing in on the technicalities of the hand. And so maybe there is something to pay attention to extra, right? I don't know what the equivalent would be in trading, but maybe there's like a context thing that should be factored in, a context, something going on with sentiment or news, or like any of these other factors that people like to add in for confluence. But those aren't where you start the evaluation of your process, right? You have your process and you have the technical factors you're looking at, and the individual, the Bayesian probability stuff, the confluence stuff to make your decision. And then maybe you add in, okay, and let's add in this for context, rather than starting with the secondary or tertiary context piece. So it's kind of like if I was in a poker hand and I was trying to read somebody, and I saw them do something like with their face. I saw them like blink in a certain way or like look a certain way. That wouldn't be what I would let dictate the whole hand, right? I would use my strategic process to evaluate, and then I would put that in and see if like that changed anything. But I think people, because it's a personal and psychological thing, it's very easy to get pulled in those directions. And the number one thing actually that just occurred to me, way more important than this, is people look at it through the lens of wanting to win, not the evaluation of what's going on. Is this good or bad? And therefore, should I take the trade? It's, I want to win in a trade. Let's find a reason to do it. Same with the poker hand. Like they want to win the hand. They don't want to have, like, let's say they have a good hand, but now relative to what's happened on the board and the opponents, whatever, maybe their hand isn't so relatively strong anymore. So instead of evaluating the hand, like, well, what's my opponent's range? What should I call with here? Instead, they're looking for a reason to suit the original motivation of wanting to call. So their thought process is automatically damaged. And so it's really hard to do that, I think, because I know for you it's probably no big thing, but I think competitive people generally really want to win and are looking for a reason, an excuse to make a decision that they already want to make.
I also think people don't look at their mistakes. So when they realize where they're going wrong in the plan, it's easier to bury your head in the sand. When people lose the trade, they don't want to think about it. They'll focus on the winners, but they don't want to. I think people overcomplicate it. It's as simple as that. People don't want to admit to their mistakes or actually do the work behind. Okay, let's break this down. Where did I really go wrong? 9 times out of 10, nobody's gonna do that. And I think simple stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's laziness. People are just lazy. People prefer to not take the risk and think. They just, let me do something black and white, and that's it.
But I also think it's uncomfortable, right? It's uncomfortable to look back at a mistake and sit with this and be like, what did I really do here? How did I really think about it? It's uncomfortable. Too fucking bad. Like, you need to be okay with being uncomfortable. Yeah. You want to do something, poker, trading, where the majority of participants lose. So you can't expect that it's going to be easy, cushy, like always fun. You're not always going to feel good. You're not always going to be comfortable. You're gonna deal with this stuff all the time. So if people can go into it with the attitude of, it's okay, it's okay for me to be uncomfortable here. It's okay for me to feel shitty about the mistake I made. But the point is to learn from it. The point is to learn from it. And if you can do that, then you will be set up so much better than everyone else, because nobody wants to admit their mistakes. No one wants to evaluate their mistakes. And it's like traumatic. It's like, it's like, imagine if you're in a therapist's office and they're trying to work out something with you and you have to talk about something painful that happened to you when you were a kid. It's like a very small version of that. The mind tries to avoid it. They don't want to revisit any kind of distress.
People don't like to put effort in. And one thing we have to accept, this is why I'm a more cold and brutal like that. I know, no, but it's true. The majority of the world will not put that effort in. And that is fact. Human nature will never change. You have to be cut from a different cloth, or you have to really want it to come outside, be okay with living in that uncomfortable zone or discomfort, and really put effort in. It takes effort Majority don't want to put effort. Where do I get in? Where do I get out? That's it. I don't want to know no more. But no, you have to understand it. You have to make it your own. And that's when greatness comes in. Without that, it doesn't come in. But yeah, I mean...
Well, everyone wants an easy ride.
But yeah, but
everyone wants
then
ride.
you gotta be... Oh, then you gotta accept mediocre and average then. Because greatness doesn't come with easy.
Well, if you're going to be one of the everyone, then you're going to be one of the 95% that lose. If you want the easy ride and you don't want to put in the work, that's the...
People want to put minimal in, but they want maximum return. Life doesn't work like that. Yeah, and you appreciate it more when you put effort in and then see the rewards. But if it's given to you easy, it just doesn't feel right. I don't know, maybe that's just me.
Do you think you also have to really like the process?
I think
if you really don't like the process and you're just like, I just want the money, then you're not really going to.
I mean, yes, there's nothing wrong with just wanting the money, and if that's your motivation that makes you pull your finger out, then yes, that's fine. But if you just want the money but no work, then no. I think people if you approach a difficult situation, you get through it, you enjoy that. Then let me take on the next challenge, because you get used to. Hang on a minute, I'm able to come across. Get over difficult situation, it becomes addictive. Then what's the next? But if you haven't taken the first step, you're scared. I'd rather not touch it. I'd rather live easy, and I don't want to think about it. If you hang on, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna take it on head on and let me overcome it. And once you overcome it, you go, hang on a minute, I can do this, and that builds your confidence in life, all across life, really, doesn't it? Being able to tackle difficult situations. But majority of the world won't. This is why majority of the world settles for average, but they still complain when they don't get more than they deserve. You get what you put in. It's as simple as that.
Well, I mean, it's also like everyone looks at these big success stories and they're like, oh, well, that must be easy. I can do that, without realizing how much unglamorous work it is, right? Like there's obviously the glamorous result of being able to have financial freedom and winning a lot of money, or having the right investment, whatever it is, but they don't really think about the legwork that goes into that, how much loss comes before that. And they think, if you tell them oh, well, you're going to have to deal with X, Y, Z, and there's going to be really shitty days and you're going to have to deal with this or whatever, they'll say, oh yeah, that's fine. But they don't actually understand what that means to go through it. And they don't, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
It's not always glamorous. It's not always glamorous, and people they don't really recognize that. We talk about this in poker sometimes, that it's not always as glamorous as it seems, and that there's lots of lows and there's lots of losing. For poker, let's say in a tournament situation,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to lose 85% of the time you play. 85% of the time you're going to lose. You're going to have so much losing. You have to be so good at losing. You have to take these losses as well as you can, and you have to take them over and over again. And 85% of the time it's not going to look like one out of every 9 or 10 times, or 8 to 10 times or whatever that you lose. It might look like 40 losses in a row, and then a couple of wins, or something like that. So you have to sustain a lot of this stuff. And something that you said about you said you don't want to start the trade in an emotional position or something like that.
Yeah, so I said,
reminded me of something.
You spoke about also the mindset before you even sit at your desk. Have you got emotional baggage in your mind, or have you been eating shit, or you got stress in life? If you're trading is just about good decision making. So if you don't have a clear mindset, if you're not looking after your mind outside of trading, you'll probably be shit at trading, because you'll be making bad decisions.
What do you do to look out for your mind outside of trading?
I don't know. When I was in my good days, maybe work out, if that helps. Maybe go for a walk or something. Clear your head. Eating clean. When I eat crap, my decision making is crap. I feel lazy. I don't put the effort in I want, and my mind's clouded. But when I eat clean, I can see a difference. Journal it. People that are suffering from that, journal it. Journal how you are. Even note down what you're eating. Have you exercised that day? And then compare the results of your trading performance to days where you're not, and you'll see the big difference it makes. Simple stuff like trading decision making. So if you're not looking after your mental health, how do you expect your trades to go well? Simple stuff like that. How about yourself? What do you do?
Yeah, I find a huge difference when I exercise. Huge, huge, huge. I've built that into my routine for over a decade now, so it's like I don't even think about it. I always work out. But the endorphins that exercise gives you are just pure science. It's just a real thing. You feel better, your body feels better. You're less like the whole thing. I don't need to explain how great exercise is, but exercise is incredible. And I find that when I give myself some space, I don't just wake up. Like, let's say if I was going to play online poker, for example, I don't just wake up, turn on the computer, and go for it. I'll take some time. I'll think about maybe some things I want to focus on, like whatever I've been working on last time. Like, I don't know if you do this with your journal, but sometimes when I'm working on something specific in my game, I take a few notes for directives that I might want. Okay, well, you've been leaning towards this area of mistake. Let's look at this. Let's look at this, whatever. And I try to, like, maybe I have like a 2-hour session where I'm reviewing my own play. And then I try to take like 3, and you have to keep it simple because the mind you just can't focus on too many things at once. So I might say, like, I want to focus on these 3 things today. And I might keep it up on my computer as a post-it note so I can reference it. Or there could be, I have whatever I want to focus on, I have a tactic to implement it. So if it's something that I keep forgetting during my thought process in hands, I might have a reminder up on my screen to notice it. Let's say it's something different. Let's say I find my overall level of focus kind of going in and out or waning after a certain time. I might set an alarm on my computer, like every 20 minutes to beep to remind me of that. Let's say that it could be something else. Then what do I want to do on a break that gets my mind back into it? What are some things so I would have, and this is like, I really hope people take this away, whether they're poker players, traders, or just like want to improve anything like this. You have to have, it can't just be, well, I want to do this. I want to be thinner. I want to be smarter. I want to be better at trading, without any actionable steps. You have to start with some kind of actionable step, and you have to have a way to evaluate that step, because you don't want to just have steps that don't work for you. You want to be able to have some kind of way of evaluating, was this effective? Did this work for me or not? And then you keep it or you leave it. But these like generic things are, the people that measurably improve skills or general aspects in their lives could generally tell you, it starts with these super small steps that might not have everyone wants a giant payoff immediately.
Yeah.
Everyone, it's hard to deal with that. But if you just commit, like if you just keep it small, if you just commit to one thing for one time, you're going to feel great about it after you do it. And then you're going to feel great the next time after you do it. And then once you've done it for 2 weeks, you're going to be like, holy shit, the payoff of that was incredible. Yeah. But if you look at it as this huge daunting challenge, like all the things I need to fix and work on, then often you don't get started, or you half-ass it or whatever. So anyway, back to the original thing. Yeah, I really like to take care of that. I also like to do some kind of meditative thing.
Yes.
Even if it's just 5 minutes. Like the scientific benefits of meditation are just inarguable.
I remember Ray Dalio speaking about that.
Even if you, yeah. I mean, if you listen to successful people, I think you guys know who Chamath is, yes. Right? You know who that is, right? Yeah. So he said on some podcast, I love the way he speaks, and I listen to him here and there. He said that he takes an hour in the morning and just gets to this thing in his mind called inbox 0, where he just goes through everything that's there and sorts it out. And he's now completely unstressed by that. For the rest, hour sounds extreme, but if you never, like, your mind is a muscle like anything else. If you never take care of it, and you never, in Mental Game of Poker, which is a book that I like a lot, he talks about resolving old stuff. So let's say something bad happens to you in a situation in trading or whatever, some kind of loss, some kind of whatever, and you haven't dealt properly with the previous losses. You haven't investigated them. You haven't seen, what is it that I did wrong? How can I fix it? You just let that grow in the back of your mind. Then you're going to take this next one much worse than you should have taken it if you had properly handled the ones before.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah. But honestly, all of it can be related to the journaling. But I think that people like in the online era where you just like, you wake up, you get on your phone immediately. You wake up, you get on your computer immediately. There's no preparation, there's no warm up. And I think mental sports should be treated like athletic sports. They should be treated like body sports. You should have a warm up routine, and you should have a cool down routine, which is like perfect. Once you're done for the day, poker, trading, whatever, you can do your journaling, and then you can evaluate, when you're fresh, how did I feel about these things that I wanted to focus on today? I wanted to focus on these 3 things. Rate yourself. How do you think you did? What do I want to focus on tomorrow? Then the next day, when you do it, read back over that, study that. That's your warm up. Then you do what you know is going to set you up for the day. And if you don't have time to do it, then too bad. That's not going to be a day that you're playing or a day that you're trading. You're just not, you're never going to put yourself in a position to play or think in a suboptimal way. And you have to hold yourself to that standard. And if you don't hold yourself to that standard, then you're going to be the 95%. So I guess that's where I can say that's my hard line, like yours. If you don't have a way to hold yourself to that standard, then you are going to be the 95%. And if there's a way that you think you can hold yourself to that higher standard, so let's say you know that you do better if you have some kind of accountability.
Yeah.
Let's say it's that. So sometimes I'll make my students film themselves playing. And because they know I'm going to watch it, they play at a higher level. And you can hack that stuff for yourself too. Like, let's say I am going to have to send, let's say if you're my trading coach and I knew I had to send you every decision I made that day, I would be making better decisions than if the only person that I had to live with it was me. So there's lots of tricks you can do like that. And maybe like you never read it or I never send it to you, whatever it is, it automatically hold me to a higher standard. So whatever you have to do to hold yourself to that higher standard. And if people are listening to this, I want them to actually think, what is it that would make me, like, maybe it's not that, maybe it's something else. Whatever it is, it could be silly. It could be like having your significant other do something or say something to you or whatever it is. It has to be that. Yeah. So it's not an excuse if you're like, well, I don't know. Think about it and try things. And you might find that the caliber of what you're doing naturally goes to that. There's so many like shortcuts to all that kind of thinking. I got off topic.
No, I want to say thank you very much for coming on. I think we're reaching our limit. But thank you so much. I've taken up enough of your time.
Yeah, sure.
But I think this is one of the most retention people have had. They're really interested in your stuff. So just want to say...
Should I answer a question or anything?
Yeah, go on.
I don't know. I haven't really been paying to the chat.
Anybody's got a question, fire away. We'll take 1 or 2 questions because we do have our limit with the show. But yes, fire away. If anybody's got a question, she'll pick 2 questions. And then we'll, you can always, can they reach for you?
Oh yeah. You can follow me on Twitter at Melanie Weisner, and you can reach me there. Yeah, I can answer DMs there.
Let's see who's got questions. First 2 good questions.
What kind of delay is there?
Oh yeah, there's about, I keep forgetting there's a 10-second delay. Yes, we will definitely.
A+. I like it. Maybe what we'll do is I'll teach you how to play poker, and then we'll play heads up.
Okay.
On the stream.
I mean, no woman's beating me. I'm not gonna let no woman beat me. Joke. You can handle it. No one's beating me in poker. I refuse to accept it.
That's the attitude.
I refuse to accept
I'm counting on. How is the lighting so good? Best top tip for when things go wrong. I feel like best top tip for when things go wrong. I guess my best tip is really like it's kind of along the lines of what SC already said. If you feel like something is getting in your way of decision making, he says, what's the worst that can happen? I say make peace with that scenario. So just like take it a little bit further, because it sometimes has more power over you if it's this like nebulous kind of entity, rather than being like, okay, the worst thing that can happen is I can lose this pot, I can lose this trade. It's going to feel a little shitty for a while. I'm going to be this much down. How is that going to feel? I'm going to probably be okay, right? I'm going to survive. I'm going to move on. I'm going to continue my day. Okay. You've dealt with that. Now set it aside and go back to the decision-making process. And often when you take the power away from that kind of looming thought, it's much more comfortable. It's not a big deal anymore. So that maybe can help. I did like the walk the dog after a losing trade thing. That was great.
Just accept if things go wrong, just know it's not the end of the world. Stop, because if you continue, you're most likely going to make things worse. You know, it's a journey, long term. And when you look back at it, and when you get over it, you recover and you look back, you say, yeah, I'm glad I did that, because otherwise I would have fucked up. And that's it. It's as simple as that. If you can't control that emotion, then you're not cut out. It's as simple as that, in my opinion. But I use that brutal approach because some people need that. And trading, if you be too soft on people in trading, they're going to lose money straight away. So I found being brutal, they listen then, hang on a minute, I shouldn't do this, you know. Because you shouldn't.
Yeah, and I think that's why I like you, actually, because you're not feel good, you know. You're not like, well, everyone's great and everyone this. Like you're very tell it like it is.
In this thing I am outside of life I'm normal, but with this I'm very strict because it has to be this way, in my opinion. You know, people say we're all gonna make it. No, you're not gonna make it. Not everybody's gonna make it. It's okay if you huddle. You only lose if you close your trade. Or shut up. That's bullshit. Doesn't work. Why are you in the same position are you still in? Listening to bullshit soft advice, because you know people say it to make themselves feel better, and then when they get validation from like 100 sheep, then they convince themselves, yes, that's true, but that's not how reality works. But yeah.
But also remember, like, what's your job, right? Your job, if you're a teacher, your job is not to make your students feel good. That's not your fucking job.
I don't know. Some job is borderline abuse, but yeah.
Your job is to analyze what you see and give your best advice based on that. And I tell my students all the time, like, my job is not to make you feel good about the way you played your hands. You're not going to learn anything if that's the case. So,
question.
Which of these other questions do you like?
We'll do one more question then. Because journal. Do you still continue to journal and review your system?
Yeah. So for me, I still do almost the same things I used to do when I was playing full-time online. Every time I have a question about a decision I made, or I want another opinion on it, or I know I made a mistake, anything like that. And, you know, in poker specifically, I've played like, it's got to be like 10 million hands by now. So I'm going to have tons and tons of mistakes. Just because I do well doesn't mean that I'm not making mistakes. I'm still making mistakes here and there. Like even if they're small, they're still mistakes. So my biggest thing is to, and I don't mess with my session at the moment. I can't, if I'm in a game, I can't spend my time in that game stressing over my past decision. I have to move on from it and play the next hand. But it's really important that I write it down and set it aside, so I know, okay, I can visit this again. I can visit this again later. What do I think? And then afterwards, I will send all the hands or all, you know, my decision points to a couple of people who I trust, and not necessarily people that have the exact same thought process as me, right? Because I don't necessarily want an echo chamber in the people I talk to. I want people that play differently than me, that I can learn something from, that I can bounce ideas off of. And I would recommend that in you know, any endeavor, so you get kind of a varied perspective. But then I take some time to go over them and like really, you know, explore the decisions in depth. And I have people that I work on that with who I'm not afraid to be vulnerable in front of, you know, so I don't have to act like I made a better decision than I did, and I don't have to, you know, act tough in front of them. And I know this is like, that's part of the camaraderie in these sports. You know, you see it, I guess, in the environment all the time. People feel the need to kind of like puff up and appear like they're stronger or better or more proud or whatever it is. And then I review that, and then I try to distill that into key takeaways, because like your mind is not really great at keeping all this nebulous information and then just accessing it at will. But if you can distill it into like 2 or 3 directives to focus on the next time, then you'll have the meat of what you worked on. So I do that. I evaluate, I set aside my hands, and you guys should do the same with journaling. And then I have dedicated time to review it. I try to distill that into 3 easy takeaways, and then I look at that the next time before I play. And I can tell you that if I don't do it, my game always suffers if I don't prepare that way. I have lots of evidence that that's the case.
I agree with you. I still journal to this day because market environments are always changing. You may have the basic blueprint, but certain things change, volatility changes, certain patterns change, behavior changes. If without journaling, you're not going to realize that. So with journaling, you note that down, or this keeps repeating itself, and then you can look back at it and say, okay, this is how I've got to adjust my plan. And if you're not ready to do that, then you're going to suffer.
I'll say really quickly about this PTSD thing. How do you get over the horse? I'll just say, I think it's important to give yourself a little bit of time. Like if I have a particularly bad loss or bad decision or whatever, it's just not a wise. It's not a wise decision to just immediately go play it the next day. Like you should give yourself some time to reset. Same with trading. I don't think you want to just immediately take the next trade if you've had a really bad thing happen to you or you've made a really big mistake. I think it's important to just give yourself some breathing room there. And then once you have some distance, do the thing I was talking about, evaluate it. What can I learn from it? And then start smaller the next time. Like in poker, like often you will take a shot at higher stakes and you'll lose. And you have to be prepared to just go drop down to the lower stake and build yourself back up. And I think the same is true in trading. If you've taken an unwise trade, if you've exposed yourself too much and you've paid the penalty for that, take some distance and then start back smaller than what you did before rather than chasing losses. Am I right?
Absolutely. So everybody, I want you to say thanks to Melanie. Follow her Twitter. It's in the title. And if you guys got questions, she's got a website. It's in her bio, Twitter bio. You said your DMs are open for questions, etc. Definitely check it out. And I'm going to bring you on again. In the new year, I'm going to bring you on again.
Yay!
And we'll discuss which topics to discuss. I think you're a favorite here. So I want to say thank you again personally. And everybody thank Melanie. Follow her on Twitter. And I'll catch you guys soon. Good night.
My pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.